He's here, by the way.
Thank you.
So she's asking what is spelt flour, and spelt flour is an old form of the wheat that we know today. That's it.
So it's labeled spelt flour.
Yeah, it's labeled spelt. It's wheat. It's just an older form of wheat. Einkorn is an even older form of wheat.
Okay.
Like back in the day, there were as many types of wheat as there were.
Back in the day.
You know, I love back in the day. You know,
It's
totally into back in the day. There was a lot of different variety of wheat. Like you probably see it because the GMO Monsanto thing is pretty hot right now. People are like, there used to be 200 varieties of apples, and now there's only 6. Right?
Yeah.
That's how it was for every food. And so spelt is one of those varieties of wheat. So it's a glutinous grain, but for most people it's a little bit easier on their belly than wheat.
Okay.
Yeah, that's fun. It's wheat.
So when you see that, you could replace it for like organic flour.
Oh, yeah. Well, you'd like to try and find organic spelt if you can. Grains and fats are the 2 things that I tell people to try and find organic if they can. And then that list that I sent out from our shopping trip of try to find these organic fruits and vegetables, grains and fats. So I would try and find organic spelt flour, which they will have.
Oh.
And
Oh,
maybe even
you know, Costco's carrying all that Bob's right now.
listen,
It's crazy.
go to Costco.
They have
Sure do
organic
sometimes.
blocking. They have the jarred tomatoes. I bought a bunch of those.
And great cheese.
Organic jarred tomatoes, cheeses. It's fabulous.
I mean, local is best when you can afford it, and sometimes Costco's got some deals. So it's great.
The tomatoes are, and they're fabulous.
We buy our kids school lunch stuff. They have plain dried apples there, which are organic. plain
Bear
dried.
fruit. I'm addicted to.
Does anybody else have any questions?
really do have $2.
You haven't gotten the video yet from the cooking class because I have a techie for a husband and he's still trying to figure it out. So you're gonna get it this week. But from last time, do you all have any questions about metabolism? Cool. How do you feel? Yeah? Hungry? I'm like, do I have any food? I usually have food first. So tonight, we're just gonna kind of talk. It's not gonna be some formal thing. I mean, I'm gonna give you more tips and like that, and we're just gonna kind of talk about your experience, and I'm gonna tell you about my experience and more of what I do, and kind of like how to go out into the world, which this whole program has been based on how to be out in the world on a non-diet, because that's gonna be most of your life. You're probably not gonna be eating this strict way all the time, and so I've been integrating that all along, but we're gonna do that a little bit more tonight, okay? So I'm gonna tell you a little bit about how I came to this and why I'm a practitioner the way I'm a practitioner. I'm not just some crazy hippie that decided that this was right. This came about from my life experience. So has anybody read my website or my articles or like that? So some of it you may have read. I got sick when I was a really little kid. I grew up in Kentucky, and so there's a lot of ticks there, and they thought I had the Lyme of the 80s, which they call Rocky Mountain Spotted Fever. And my father was devastated because he took me hunting with him, and we would come home and you'd take a bath in a little bit of Clorox bleach, and you'd have, you know, like thousands of ticks come off of you. Like, that's just the way it was. We didn't know. So I got sick, and I was in the hospital, and first they thought I had Rocky Mountain Spotted Fever, and then they thought I had lupus. So I had the perfect profile now, when I look back, of the kids that I work with today, which is interesting. Total autoimmune kid. Some developmental disorders. But they have to put a label on any type of symptomology that they see. That's a big part of a doctor's job. And so first they thought the Rocky Mountain, and they thought lupus, and finally they said she has mono, but I was like 2.5 or 3. You know, when our parents are like, but they had to put a label on it, so that's what it was. But so from a really young age, I was kind of one of those kids that you're like, oh, that kid, you know, like a little sickly kid. And went through school kind of with that demeanor. Although my will, as you've probably seen through this past month, is like a bull. So it, you know, I was strong in that way and got through. But as as I got older, I got more and more symptomology until finally I was like vegetarian and really like, gonna be a vegetarian, it's the meat, I know it's the meat, and then I was a vegan, and then I moved to Eugene, Oregon, and I became like a vegan, you know, like you know they're a vegan. And I kept getting sicker and sicker and sicker and sicker until finally I became so sick, mainly with anxiety, it was digestive disorders also, autoimmunity. I couldn't stay in school, and so I dropped out of school, and I lived the like, you know, college student's dream. I went to Hawaii, and I hitchhiked around, which did wonders for my anxiety. Not a good scene at all. And so I was basically searching, though, for what the hell is wrong with me. I was really trying to figure that out. And now I look back, and I see, oh my God, you know, like I was looking for answers, and I wasn't finding them in university. So I found this community in Hawaii, and these wackos were eating this wackadoo diet, but they were doing great. And so that's where this got started 10 years ago. And I started to study, and I felt better, and I was eating this diet, better and better, and I could work. And then one day, I didn't have to take an anti-anxiety med. And I don't know if any of you have ever been on an anti-anxiety med, but you don't forget to take that medication. That is like number one, the top of the list for your day. And it was beautiful, you know, like something had started to work. So that was 2003 that happened. And so since then, I finished my degree in medical anthropology, and then I got a nutrition degree, and then I studied GAPS work, which is for chronically ill adults and kids with developmental illness like autism. It's a reversal diet for autism. So actually before I left my house, I was writing an article for Stephanie and Rob Breeze, the people that do the Insight Guide. Do you all know who that is? Because they're like, hey, you turned in this article that was all about meat. And we can't publish that, Victoria, because they're like, there's a lot of vegetarians and they have articles too, and you know, like, you're pretty gung-ho about this meat thing, can you change it? And I was like, you know, yes, I can change it. And so I'm having to reword it, but it's basically talking to parents of autistic children saying like, hey, there is a solution out there. I was not diagnosed ASD, which is autism, but I had an autoimmune diagnosis when I was really young, and it's possible to reverse it. Do it when your kids are young. So that's the main work I do now, is with people that are really, really sick folks. And the reason I'm doing a weight loss thing is because these people come in, and if they have needed to lose weight, they're like, everything's going great, you know, they tell me, usually, 99% of the time, things are really cooking, and man, you know, I've lost about 10 pounds. Well, even if you're not sick, you can still apply what we're doing, which is what I've done with you all, to help you lose weight in a really healthy, sustainable way, which is what those people have done. And then on the other side, I have my really chronically ill folks who cannot gain any weight, and they come in and they're like, I gained 4 pounds and now I can poop on my own, you know, and they're really excited about it. So that's the population of people I work with in general. But for every person, weight gain or exaggerated weight loss is just a symptom of something bigger that's going on. And what we have done is we've tried, you know, in a pretty short general time span to address those underlying causes of what's happening. And that's what will take weight off. So that's what we want to do. So tonight, what I kind of want to like talk a little bit about is like, well, people are like, how do we eat grain? Like, is grain bad or carbohydrates bad? You know, like, how are we going to bring this back in? What do we do if we're out at a restaurant for takeout? What are still some tricks that we can do even if we're not sticking to this? You guys have probably noticed there's not much grain in the recipes that I've been sending out, but has it been something that you've missed? Have you missed having grain? Anybody in your diet? Yeah? Okay. So we'll talk about more like, when she's asking what is spelt, it's a great segue because spelt is a much easier grain on the body than just wheat. You love it? Is that what you said? Yeah. Look, I was raised Italian, and my grandmother always had bread and olive oil on the table. Like, that was it. So I get it. I totally get it. So we're going to talk about some of those things tonight. One thing that I do want to encourage you all to do that we had at the dinner is, before you eat, eat something bitter. Have we talked about that before? Start doing that. Whatever diet you're eating, if you're going to Taco Bell, I hope you would only ever do occasionally, still have something bitter before the meal. And I carry a little tincture of bitters in my purse, so I just have it around. And before I eat, if I go out or like that, I just take a little bit of that bitter, and just that taste, not any of the amount, but just the taste, signals a hormonal response in the brain that tells the stomach, hey, food is coming, it's on its way. So that's a good thing to get. They have bitters at almost every health food store. I don't know if I've checked at SPD, but they might even have it there. Herbal bitters, and you take just a little bit. Or, I tell a lot of people this, if you like to drink beer, get an IPA. It's bitter, it's hoppy. And most people, I don't really like IPAs because it's so bitter, but to have a little bit of IPA before your meal, a really good beer, it's great, okay? Arugula is a bitter. If anybody likes arugula greens, having a small green salad like that before you eat is fantastic, okay? So that's something you can do no matter what you're eating.
Did you also say just like a lemon in water?
When you wake up in the morning, especially for people who struggle with constipation, which I'm not going to make you ready.
Come for me.
If you get up in the morning and first thing, even if you're going to have a cup of coffee, get some warm water with lemon in it and drink that first thing. And if you can, move around a little bit. Like one woman in a class, she was like, well, I chase my kids in the morning, does that count? And I was like, sure, you can chase your kids. But if you can move around just a little bit and have that warm water with lemon in the morning, that is fantastic for almost every system in the body. Lemon is very acidic, but when it gets into the body, it alkalizes the places that need to be alkalized, like the blood and the saliva, and it acidifies the places that need to be acidified, like the gut. Does anybody drink the alkaline water? Good. Your stomach needs to be about a 1 on a pH scale. So it doesn't make sense chemically to pour an 8 pH liquid into that container that needs to be about a 1. So drink some lemon water instead. It's not something that I would say to do every day, like not always do that, because eventually it will start to affect the enamel on your teeth. So, 4 or 5 mornings a week, it's okay. Having little tricks like that up your sleeve will always help you maintain healthy underlying function, so you'll keep weight off. That's a good one. The other one that I don't know if we mentioned, I think I just mentioned in the past week, when you are finished eating dinner at night, if you're still hungry, watch that. We need to address that a little bit. We can talk about that. Brush your teeth right after you're done eating. Just go to the bathroom and brush your teeth, because what it does is it triggers the lazy human, which we are. We're like chickens. If you bring chickens food and you put it in the coop, they will never leave the coop, right? So let's play on the lazy human, and once you've brushed your teeth and flossed, you're probably not going to want to do it again before you go to bed. So you're not going to eat after you do that. And that is a fantastic trick. We talked about how for metabolism, you have that 12-hour break at night, like if you can do between 7 and 7, that's excellent. In the summer, I know it stays light way later, so if you don't eat till later in the summer, try to still give yourself about 12 hours. Okay? Does anybody still feel hungry after they eat dinner at night? I saw a client the other day, and she's like, I wash my dishes, and I get my kitchen cleaned up, and she's like, basically, as soon as it's clean, I'm like in the freezer looking for some little something to snack on. You have to eat more fat and more protein. You have to. Your balance is off. So if you're still hungry or you're craving, there's something off there. That's a big one. So mainly when you start to eat grains again, here's what I want you to look for. On our shopping list, we had breads that were sourdough bread or sprouted bread. That's what was recommended. That is fantastic for any grain. Do you guys want to know why? This is good. You're like,
Just trust you.
you really don't. Let me tell you. So you all have an immune system that works to protect you from things that are trying to invade, right? Like any pathogens. So does a hard-shelled plant food.